Hello, bruvs. This is the afterword to Clarice Lispector's Near to the Wild Heart. It's not written by her. It is written by, I can't remember his name. It's at the end of the afterword. Believe me, the thing I like most of all in the world is what I feel deep inside me, opening out, as it were. I could almost tell you what it is, yet I cannot. Near to the Wild Heart was published in Brazil in 1944. It was Clarice Lispector's first novel, and she was 19 years of age. Throughout her childhood and adolescence, she had amused herself writing stories and short plays. For one reason or another, these were never published. She worked on the manuscript of Near to the Wild Heart for several years, a task she combined with her career as a journalist for a prestigious Rio newspaper, A Noite. I don't know how to say it. The Spectre was one of the first women to be employed there as a journalist. She found the work congenial and became friendly. Sorry for not putting it in the screen. And became friendly with other talented young writers. The most significant friendship of all was that with Lucio Cardoso, a writer of considerable experience, who read and criticized draft chapters of her novel in manuscript form. Cardoso also suggested the lines from James Joyce's A Portrait of of the artist as a young man as a suitable title. The reviews commented on the book's striking innovations and welcomed its publication as the most serious attempt in Brazil to date to write a truly introspective novel. But no critic could possibly have foreseen the influence Lispector would exert on feminist literature at home and abroad in years to come. There's the footnote from up above. The original title in Portuguese is Parto. I don't know how to say it, so I won't even attempt. First published in Rio de Janeiro, A Noite, 1944. Subsequent editions published by Editora Nova Fronteira. Near to the Wild Heart focuses on psychological and philosophical problems in its portrayal of Joanna, a young woman in search of an authentic existence. Joanna's confidences echo those of Lispector herself, for here's a writer who claimed to be affected by everything, who saw and heard too much, who was constantly struggling against the tide of her own self. The traumas experienced by Joanna foreshadow most of the preoccupations voiced by woman writers everywhere from the 1960s onwards. Near to the Wild Heart is divided into two parts. The 9 chapters in part 1 operate on two different but interrelated planes. The one dealing with the protagonist's childhood and adolescence, the early years with her father, orphanhood, the male teacher whom Joanna secretly adores, the aunt who offers her a home without love or understanding, the emotional and physical turmoil of puberty as she comes to discover her own body and its demands. Interspersed with these fragments of her past are glimpses of Joanna as a conventional suburban wife with unconventional thoughts. How was she to tie herself to a man without permitting him to imprison her? And was there some means of acquiring things without those things possessing her? A mysterious female voice engages Joanna in earnest dialogues about existence and constraints. A second plane focuses on the adult Joanna, who becomes increasingly aware of who and what she is. A triangular relationship involving Joanna, her unfaithful husband, Otavio, and Lydia. Otavio's ex-fiancé, who is now expecting his child, exacerbates obsessive self-questioning about social and sexual roles. Joanna sees her marriage in retrospect as an unforgivable betrayal of self. Bravely confronting her humiliating situation, she makes a bid for freedom, whatever the cost. Part 2 of the novel sees Joanna emerge as a prototype for all the reflective women who appear in subsequent stories and novels. Trapped in a servile and meaningless existence, she rebels in frustration. The mockery of her relationship with Ottavio precipitates a crisis which makes their separation inevitable. My God, never to be yourself, never, ever, never, never, and to be a married woman, in other words, someone with their destiny traced out. Even boredom with life has a certain beauty when you suffer it alone in quiet despair. It is significant that Clarice Lispector married a fellow law student whilst in the midst of writing this first novel. Early experience of marriage undoubtedly sharpened her perceptions about the considerable problems of readjustment. Joanna's simmering resentments are articulated with subtle precision. Now all her time was devoted to him, and she felt that any minutes she could call her own had been conceded, broken into little ice cubes, which she must swallow quickly before they melted. The paths of awareness and near to the wild heart were to be further explored in the steady output of novels and short stories Lispector continued to publish until she died from cancer in December 1977. But the power and originality of her best work can already be appraised in this moving tale of self-discovery. Plot or intrigue in any conventional sense is, oh my God, I yawned again, is disregarded. Any physical action is sparse. Her characters are much less interested in external reality than in their own inner responses to the people and objects around them. The essence of Lispector's fiction is her pursuit of a figurative language capable of conveying things arcane and elusive. Joanna progresses through a labyrinth of signs and symbols. She sifts the grains of experience and uncovers unsuspected layers of meaning. Her dreams are more lucid than any encounters with reality. Existence is seen to be governed by alien forces, and anguish gathers as she starts to penetrate the mysteries that cloak her destiny. Even in this first novel, Lispector unravels perceptions of remarkable intensity, which are not simply physical and emotional, but above all spiritual. Acute powers of observation and feeling permit her to articulate the most subtle ambiguities, even though Lispector always thought of herself as more intuitive than intellectual. She brings a new pliancy and refinement to the language of Brazil. Like the French existentialists, she believes language to be as mysterious as life itself. Joanna becomes the alter ego of Lispector when she recognizes that humans have a greater capacity for life than knowledge of life, that thoughts must be treated with suspicion, feelings with mistrust, words with caution. Both author and protagonist abhor counterfeit emotions and creative lies. Lispector's fictional world takes us into the realms of phenomenology. What is that? Phenomenology? Phenomenology. To a place of heightened awareness and a higher plane of being. Rejecting any accepted laws of time or space, Joanna confides, I can scarcely believe that I have limits, that I am outlined and defined. I feel myself to be dispersed in the atmosphere, thinking inside other creatures, living inside things beyond myself. Joanna, like all of Lispector's women characters, rebels against the contradictions of existence. The wild heart she pursues is the very core of freedom and power, an inner sanctum where she can listen, undisturbed, to the music of confusion murmuring in her depths. Joanna's suppressed violence when she realizes that fraternity and justice are not merely unattainable. And there's the hot rod. Unattainable, but contrary to nature, gradually peters out into awesome silence. Her situation, however, is one of anguish rather than despair. Someone's really giving that engine a go. Jesus Christ, man. Her threatened existence induces defiance rather than panic, for as she herself recognizes, solitude is mingled with my essence. Hence her mistrust of life in common, plotting and threatening you with a common death. Lispector's unorthodox use of syntax and punctuation, her bold rhythms and syncopated phrasing contribute to the overall impression of tense, haunting lyricism. Her startling metaphors and similes show a preference for suggestion rather than clear-cut definition. Sounds like he's coming back. Words are given new meanings and resonances in order to encompass things amorphous and impalpable. Conscious of the dilemma that confronts any writer who opts for approximations as opposed to certainties, who struggles with perceptions much too organic to be conceived in thoughts, Lispector has attempted to clarify her own solution to the problem. She observed, "What cannot be expressed only comes to me through the breakdown of language. Only when the structure breaks down do I succeed in achieving what the structure failed to achieve." This approach is consistent with her avowed preference for things which are incomplete or badly finished, which awkwardly try to take flight only to fall clumsily to the ground. In short, Clarice Lispector was a writer of vision and courage, who was never afraid of plunging into darkness, only to emerge bearing trickling mirrors. Giovanni Pontiero, Manchester, March 1989. Don't agree with her vision, and I don't think the novel was very good, but she was 19, so I can't really judge the rest of her work since I don't know any of it. And I do have, what's the book? The Apple in the Dark, which I will read at some point, but I don't think it's going to be until like March. So, date due. Let's return this. No, let's see the last page. There's the pocket. Clarice Lispector, Near to the Wild Heart. Marygrove Library. Oh, that's right. This is from Marygrove Library in Detroit. I could have bought this when they had their big sale there. But it looks like someone else got it. Let's see that. Forgot about that little Ex Libris bookplate. I do have one in one of my books, but... Alright, I'm returning it. See what happens. That's it. As I said, out of 5 stars, I would give it about 1.7. Just because she was 19. Otherwise, I'd give it about 0.3. But that's all. Goodbye.